Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the 27th episode of The Loud House, 11 Louds A Leapin. This episode stands out for being the Season 2 premiere, the first full episode of The Loud House, that is to say one that isn't split into an A segment and a B segment, and it's the Christmas episode. The opening theme even ends with a winter scenery and Lily walking across the screen in her winter outfit. So we start this episode with Lincoln getting ready to head outside and preparing with his winter outfit, which bears a strong resemblance to Charlie Brown's winter outfit, by the way. And he explains that it's Christmas Eve and that, the Christmas spirit is present throughout the Loud House. While Lincoln is preparing to go outside, we do get to see a glimpse of some of the other sisters' objectives for this Christmas. Lori is talking to Bobby on the phone. This is the first Christmas they're spending together, and Bobby is quite nervous about finding the best gift he can for his first Christmas with Lori. Lenny wants to make the perfect Christmas outfit, although she keeps using some Christmas decorations to do so. Luna's trying to come up with a Christmas-themed song, but she's having a hard time finding the lyrics that sound right for the occasion. Luann is coming up with 12 Christmas-themed puns. This is apparently a tradition of hers. She calls them the 12 puns of Christmas, naturally. Lynn and Lucy are both working together to try and find where the Christmas presents are being hidden this year. Lana is trying to catch one of Santa's reindeers, so we see her various reindeer traps throughout the episode. Lola is trying to get on the nice list by making up for 12 months worth of naughty behavior so she can get something besides coal from Santa. And Lisa just tries to disprove to Lola that Santa is real. And as for what Lincoln wants to do exactly, he's actually trying to just ride his sleigh outside, the Fearsome Flyer 8000, or he calls it Big Red. So he goes outside, and while he's about to prepare to go outside, we do hear Mr. Grouse complaining about the Louds' Christmas festivities. It's also in this episode where Mr. Grouse's name is actually said out loud during the episode itself and not just seen in the end credits. So while Lincoln is, he's preparing to ride his sleigh, he tries to do it. But unfortunately for him, he hits a bump, like there's a rock in the middle of... He's actually trying to go down the slide to start his sledding, but he hits a rock on the ground while he's going down the slide, and Big Red ends up in Mr. Grouse's yard. And this is a concern because Lincoln recalls how anytime the Loud family members' items accidentally fell into Mr. Grouse's property, he would always confiscate it and never give it back, just claiming that it being in his yard automatically makes it into his property. So Lincoln calls Clyde to ask for his help in trying to retrieve Big Red. Clyde has his own thing going on too, where he's wearing a hat that has a mistletoe attached to it, hoping he'll get a kiss from Lori. He tried this before in the past, like he had a whole hat that was made of mistletoe, but a bird swooped in and took him off somewhere. And we also, while this is going on, we do see what Lori more specifically is doing for her objective of this Christmas. Apparently, Lori likes to open Christmas presents before Christmas time, and not just her presents. She likes to open all of the family members' Christmas presents. So this year, she's going to try and resist the urge to open the Christmas presents before Christmas time. Unfortunately for her, the mailman delivers a human sized Christmas present and it asks for Lori to open it immediately. But it's tempting for Lori, but she fights the urge to open it until it's Christmas time. Now, back with Lincoln and Clyde, Clyde makes it over to help Lincoln out. So he's going to distract Mr. Grouse by singing Christmas carols while Lincoln sneaks into the backyard to try and get Big Red. But Lincoln accidentally knocks over a wheelbarrow full of wood, which attracts Mr. Grouse's attention. He has to hide. Clyde's best efforts to distract him don't work, and so Mr. Grouse finds Big Red and he confiscates it, bringing it into his house. So Lincoln and Clyde are wondering what they can do now, and while Luna comes outside to continue to try to figure out a song for Christmas time, Mr. Grouse complains about the song, and we see he's actually leaving to go off who knows where. But in any case, it gives Lincoln a chance to retrieve Big Red. So he asks Clyde to keep a lookout for when Mr. Grouse returns while he goes through the doggy door in the back of Mr. Grouse's house to retrieve Big Red. Unfortunately for Clyde, he happens to land on a reindeer catapult, one of Lana's reindeer traps, which sends him flying who knows where. Lana even admits that a catapult probably isn't the best way to catch a reindeer. While Lincoln's in the house, he does manage to find Big Red rather easily, and he notices a picture of young Mr. Grouse back when he was a kid, and he had a Fearsome Flyer 1000. But before he can ponder this or think any more of this, Mr. Grouse has returned back from wherever it is he went to. So now Lincoln has to play stealth and avoid Mr. Grouse while he's going around the house. But just as Lincoln reaches the back door, but before he can leave, Mr. Grouse catches him, and he also startles Lincoln, which breaks Big Red. Mr. Grouse claims he deserves it for being a thief, but Lincoln retorts that Mr. Grouse is the thief for taking his sled. But Mr. Grouse uses his excuse that anything in his yard becomes his property, and he demands that Lincoln sweep up the chimney. That's right, Lincoln was in the fireplace, so the soot from the chimney got on him, so there were footprints on the floor, so he demands Lincoln to sweep it up while he tries to get a hold of the Loud parents, but they can't hear him because the Loud family lives up to their name of being loud, so the phone is ringing, but no one hears it. And then Mr. Grouse, he thinks it's the family calling him back, but when he answers the phone, Lincoln hears he's apparently talking to one of his family members. And as he's overhearing the conversation, Lincoln also sees that there's a picture behind the one of kid Mr. Grouse. It turns out Mr. Grouse has a big family too, and we do get to see a couple of them in this picture. And the conversation on the phone also relates to this because Mr. Grouse, it seems like it's his sister who's on the other line. He explains he doesn't have enough money to make the trip to visit with her family and by extension his family, so the collective family of the Grouses, and he's unable to meet up with them this year, and he's bummed out about it. But he tells her to tell the girls, presumably her daughters, his niece, that Uncle Buddy says hi, and so that suggests we know his first name now. But after the phone conversation is done, Lincoln actually admits he heard it, and he kind of admits that it must be sad for Mr. Grouse that he can't see his family members. So instead, Mr. Grouse's reaction, though, is he just demands Lincoln to leave. He doesn't bother to have him finish up sweeping. So when Lincoln returns home, he manages to get the attention of his family, and he explains what happened at Mr. Grouse's. And the sisters all feel bad for Mr. Grouse, and they realize that his angry attitude toward their Christmas festivities probably stems from the fact that he's reminded of his own family, and that he's upset that he can't reunite with them. Even Lisa sheds tears over this, and she admits she's not one to usually give into the emotions of being human. And when they realize they probably never noticed this because they didn't focus on the giving part of Christmas, Luna is hit with inspiration. Oh, and Clyde does manage to reach Lincoln on the walkie-talkie to apologize for whatever happened to him with the reindeer catapult. But Lincoln says that he has a new plan in action. Later on, Mr. Grouse is sleeping in his living room, but then he hears something outside. As he opens the door, he finds there are decorations on his house now, and the Loud family and the McBride family are standing outside, and Luna has finally come up with her Christmas song, and it's a rockin' and a heartwarming one, I gotta say. As the song ends, the two families present Mr. Grouse with a gift, a bus ticket so he can spend Christmas with his family, but since he won't be able to spend it with Christmas Eve, they offer him the chance to spend it with them. And actually, the Loud parents lower the boxes that they have with them, and so their faces are finally revealed to the audience. Mr. Grouse is quite touched by their kindness, and he's more than happy to have them as guests for Christmas Eve. So we do get to see them having some fun there. Lenny even makes a vest for Mr. Grouse from his curtains that he can wear to see his family. We also see that Howard McBride has brown hair this time instead of his usual red hair. He goes back to having red hair in later segments, by the way. And actually, Clyde happens to be standing under the mistletoe, so yeah, Lori ends up giving him the traditional mistletoe kiss. And Mr. Grouse apologizes for his not-so-neighborly attitude, so his Christmas gift is returning the confiscated items that he took. So it turns out to be a very happy night for everyone. When Christmas Day rolls around, the Loud family open up all their presents. Lori finally gets to opening the human-sized present, and we find out it was Bobby all along. Bobby admitted that he couldn't think of a perfect gift for their first Christmas together, so he just sent himself, and Lori's quite touched by the gesture. Although Bobby's hoping that he can have some food and water after spending a long time in that box. Poor guy. And Lisa finally believes Santa Claus exists because she apparently caught a picture of him in the middle of the night, and it looks like Santa Claus left a gift behind the couch, and it's addressed to Lincoln. Lincoln opens the gift, and it's a Fearsome Flyer 1000. Lincoln rushes outside to meet with Mr. Grouse just before he leaves to get to the bus to meet his family, and he thanks him for the gift. Mr. Grouse just responds he should thank Santa Claus, and he gives him a wink. Lincoln comments that it looks like he made a new friend through this Christmas experience, but as he tries to ride the new sled like he did the first time around, it crashes through the window in Mr. Grouse's house, and he yells loud at the top of his lungs. And Lincoln's thinking maybe things won't be so different after all. And the full episode ends with Luann doing her final pun and being caught in one of Lana's reindeer traps. Amusingly enough, Luann's wearing fake reindeer antlers, so Lana thinks she actually caught a reindeer this time around. So there we have it, our first Christmas episode of The Loud House. We don't know if they're going to do another one or not, maybe. Who knows, but the Christmas episode, and it's our first full episode of The Loud House, and I gotta say, yeah, it was an enjoyable one. It was a really nice Christmas episode. This is something I could see myself watching each Christmas as a new tradition. And that's because it was a very I thought it was a very heartwarming one. Like, I feel bad for Mr. Grouse that he wasn't able to spend time with his family. And yeah, the fact that he comes from a large family as well as the Loud family, yeah, it makes sense why he might act a little sour towards the Loud family, because they remind him of his own and he doesn't get to see them as often as he usually does. And as it was mentioned earlier in the episode, he did say that the girls know him as Uncle Buddy, presumably his nieces. So, yeah, given the tradition that you say uncle first name or aunt first name, it seems like we now know Mr. Grouse's first name is Buddy, so his full name being Buddy Grouse. Kind of an ironic name, wouldn't you say? Although some people aren't sure if it's exactly his first name or if it's a nickname, because to be fair, Buddy can be a name in real life. I've known a few people who actually are known as Buddy in real life, so it's possible, and if it's true, it is, like I said, an ironic name. But maybe one of the staff members or the crew members of the Loud House can verify if Mr. Grouse's first name really is Buddy or not. It might be nice just to have that explicit confirmation, even though this episode seems to suggest Buddy is his first name. And the other big thing about this episode was the Loud parents' faces were finally revealed. Because as you may remember, the running gag of the first season was that the Loud parents always had their faces hidden or slightly obscured. You never saw the entire face, even if you saw pieces of it before. This time we actually saw their full faces. Now, although this is by production order, the first episode of season 2, there are a few segments after it that still hide the Loud parents' faces. And given the production order, I guess it's possible the segments might have been in production around the same time as this one, and they might have finished up sooner because segments are shorter than a full episode. So maybe that explains the weird aspect about the parents' faces being hidden a little bit after this episode. But after a certain point, most of season 2 actually features the Loud parents' full faces all the time. And we actually do get to see, and the Loud parents do get more prevalent roles in season 2 compared to season 1. So that's another big game changer for that we have going into season 2. And yeah, it was a very heartwarming Christmas themed episode. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a good first full episode of the series. And yeah, I don't know what else I can say, except it really was a great ride, and I definitely look forward to watching it on future years, or in the future for Christmas time. It's definitely something I'll try to make room on the Christmas schedule to watch. And with that said, we'll be going back to some segments in the season 2 episode. It'll be until halfway through season 2 when we get to the next full episode. Take care, and until next time.